got a bio. It's the entire back of our program, so it's quite colorful. And I think Don Kennedy said if I could just hang my coattails on the legacy of Catherine, I'll be doing great, which is quite a lovely statement this morning that you shared with me. I've known Catherine for about 21 years now, and her career started working around issues around women in policing. And currently she serves as the chair of the board of the Firelight Foundation that's doing work in sub-Saharan Africa. And then in between that beginning and where she is today, she has been the driving force around getting young people involved to serve. And her magical power is that she knows how to create those kinds of opportunities, to take something from the big picture and then actually to execute it and get it done. She founded the Haas Center. She founded East Service, California. She helped create Campus Compact. She founded the Presidio Leadership Center, which is the predecessor to the Institute, which is an important part of the trust today. And of course, she was the founding executive director of AmeriCorps. She had ideas around training and quality control and getting things done and branding and how you put the whole thing together to really build a movement. And 20 years later, I think there could be no greater gift than to see the greatness that's happened in our communities. It's probably worth more than the lovely award that I'm about to hand to her. And it really has been an honor for me to be able to work with her in many different ways, and I think we all feel that way. And she's a Californian, that's the best part. There really is nothing that we cannot accomplish, it's bad double negative, in our communities if we do it together. And if you have Catherine Milton on your team, you're definitely going to get things done. So Catherine, please come join me on the stage.
Thank you, Lisa and Karen and everyone here. And I do have to say one special word about Lisa. Lisa is someone who, on so many different things we've done together through the years, I could have never gotten them done without her, because she talked about execute. She said. I wanted to start by saying there's no place today I'd rather be. And I have to tell you, Karen, that even as late as yesterday, I was getting calls from the White House because I was supposed to have lunch with 3 former presidents and be there at a very special occasion in DC. And I have to tell you, I was a little bit tempted, but I said, no, there's no place I'd rather be, because actually, I probably know more than anyone else, having worked at the national level and having done so much in California, that AmeriCorps would have never happened without the energy and the talent of the people in California, and particularly so many in this room. And I always felt that I was able to do my job because I always knew I was coming back. And so even though I was working inside the Beltway with all sorts of members of Congress and all the politics of the White House, I was grounded here. I knew what it was about, and I knew the potential. And so California was just in my heart. And when I was thinking today about some of the history, I realized that our Jerry Brown governor, I mean, it was like, it's unbelievable, it goes back 40 years ago. He signed into legislation to create the California Conservation Corps, and that was a big deal back then. Yes. And that sort of led to spark the movement to get numerous urban corps going, including the one in Marin, East Bay with Joanna, San Francisco, Los Angeles, which were just sort of a foundation to sort of lead the way, to show us one of the ways that AmeriCorps, one of the visions of how it could be. And a few years later, the universities got going, and I'm very proud to have my former boss, Don Kennedy, who was president of Stanford, Chuck Supple, all of us who worked together at Stanford, UCLA, and we, in that 5-year, 10-year period, helped to create about 100 new programs in California to get college students involved in service. And many of those students went on to help become founders of AmeriCorps. And then there were so many at the state level, and Linda Forsythe and others, who did all the important work to make service learning, which wasn't a term that no one really knew about, but service learning in K through 12, so that all of our kids starting in kindergarten could have a sense about it. And all of this was encouraged from support. In those days, it wasn't so much corporate support. There was some, but in the early days, it was the foundations. And I want to sort of acknowledge one person who's not with us today, but that was Nick Bowman, who was both at the Hewlett Foundation in Irvine, and I can speak personally that, just a little story, is that when I was working at Stanford, I was really focused, and anyone who's worked with me is like, focus on doing the work with college students. And Nick said, well, there are 2 people I want you to meet. And actually Chuck was there, Joanna, and I guess it was Bob Burkhardt. Anyway, we had a lunch. And before we knew it, we had founded at that lunch table Youth Service California. And it's like we, Youth Service California, we basically, sort of had put together the idea and the concept. And I had former some undergrads do some of the work, and that really, I have to say, laid the groundwork for sort of really pushing it, that the state was important, not only California, but the state movements were important. And then we became a lobby force to help get the legislation and help get some of the concepts out there. And so, again, that's why I can honestly say that we wouldn't have AmeriCorps, and it's important for the young people who are here as part of AmeriCorps to know that we wouldn't have had it without that creative energy and focus and talent in California. I also wanted to sort of recognize 2 people who are not here today, but who most people don't know. I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard of a former Congressman, Leon Panetta, who's from Monterey, has done many great things in government. Do you realize that he wrote and introduced the first piece of legislation that actually eventually became AmeriCorps? He was from the House side, and it was several years before Senator Kennedy got involved, but Leon Panetta, and one of the founders of City Year, Michael Brown, that's where he got the idea for City Year, was an intern as a college student working for Leon Panetta, and he called up his friend, and Alan Casey, and said, we've got to do something like this. So Leon Panetta is someone who deserves a lot of credit. And also, when I went back to DC as the first leader of the first new federal agency to set this all up, I was like #1 employee. I mean, being that was quite something. No mail, no phones, nothing. But anyway, I had to do everything. The chair of my board was Pete McCloskey, who was another former congressman, and a real maverick, and out there pushing as we went along. I should say, and I particularly look to Chuck Supple, who was back in Washington then, who knows that we had a nearly impossible timeline. I mean, we put in 15, 16-hour days, and we'd sometimes meet for dinner at like 10 o'clock at night to sort of go, oh my God, how can we keep this up? But anyway, when I was there, I had to do all this in a real hurry, and there were political reasons that the legislation was going to run out. And if I didn't get the whole thing organized and out there within a year, the money was going away. And so I did the natural thing is I reached back to the talent of the people I knew in California. And so in those early days, 1/3 of the staff was from California. I have to say a number of them were my former students who were terrific. But they represented the diversity of of California, from the Central Valley to the Bay Area, and not only recent grads, but we had two incredible senior volunteers, Bob Choate and Julian Phillips, who did so much work as volunteers for over several years. And so there was that California spirit, and we all believed, I can't tell you how much we believed in the vision of national service. And we took that entrepreneurial, can-do spirit, startup mentality of Silicon Valley, and we're just saying, we're going to get this done. And that was sort of how we were able to approach the daunting tasks. And I do remember one story, and I know some of you remember, I know Michael Communis, who was involved, was one of the young people I hired in the early days. And I was at that point, how do I say this, relying on people working 15-hour days. There was no way we could get it done without incredible work. And I found a picture of the Rangers who had climbed up on the bluffs of D-Day, who were standing, sitting there all covered in soot and just like looking exhausted. And I remember taking that into Michael's office and saying, Michael, in 20 years from now, you're going to say those are the days. And so I started singing, these are the days, my friend, you'll never ever end. And he looked at me and was like, oh dear. But I will say that he has told me since that he feels that way. And I've heard from many of the other young people who are not so young 20 years from now, later, saying that they do feel as if it was the most special thing to be part of creating something. And that I think one thing I want to say to everyone in this room, and particularly those pioneer types out there, the founders, is that we can all really share in the pride that we have helped to create something that has produced the opportunities that we could hear the inspiring words that we heard today. And I think that is very special. I want to say that the best way I could think of to celebrate the creation of AmeriCorps is to recognize the talent and the energy of those who are currently involved in AmeriCorps. So when Karen called me and said that she wanted to name this award after me, it was like, there's nothing in the entire world that would make me happier than to have an award to acknowledge the talent and creativity of current AmeriCorps members. And so that's why today I'm really honored to be able to announce the first winner of the Catherine Milton California AmeriCorps Member of the Year Award. Yay! And I'm going to ask the winner, Kalyn Bocast. Can you come up here so I can say some words, and you'll all learn about how terrific she is. Yeah.
I think you need Catherine.
Thank you. So you can stand here and I'm going to say some nice things about you, but and you can turn around so everybody can see that she's the Watershed Stewards Program, which is a great program, and she's from the north, a rural area in Fortuna, and which I also think is really important that we realize that AmeriCorps is all over the state in all different parts. And she's been a very energetic organizer on the front line to restore habitat in Northern California for salmon. And I will tell you, the first time I actually had to swear in AmeriCorps members, it was in Washington State, and they said, oh, this is great. And I was like, I got there, it was pouring rain, and I had boots on, they gave me high boots, and we went to where they were restoring habitat in for salmon, and I realized this is tough work. So I have a sense of this is tough work. Although I will say, and maybe some of you are saying, well, why do we care about salmon? I mean, it's like there are lots of other causes in the state that we care about. But I look at them as a bit like the canaries, the canaries that are in the mines that let us know there's danger ahead. Well, the more I've learned about salmon, you can say it's the same. They're both known as key indicators for the species which predict the health of our ecosystem. If we don't protect the places that they live, it's not only a problem for them, it's a problem for all of us, especially, well, including humans. So Kalyn's been out there organizing projects, getting hundreds of young people involved, which has been really important. So it's not just doing the work, but convincing others in the community this is important and getting them involved, and she's made a real difference. And when I read about her, I said, she's what AmeriCorps stands for. She's getting things done for our communities, our nation, our world, and I want to congratulate her. Thank you. I'm getting choked up, but I just want to thank you all in this room for everything you do for AmeriCorps. To Kalyn for being such an inspiration. I'm so privileged to have this award. So the Watershed Stewards Project, I would not be here without you. I'm so grateful to be able to work with you, Jody Westman, Zia Schatz, Carrie Lewis, Jennifer Katsos, the new director, Emily Afrat-Hyman, and Stephanie, the new member, and I'm forgetting her last name right now, but she's great. I also want to thank Governor Jerry Brown, of course. He's done so much. I work for the California Conservation Corps, and of course he was a big part of that. Thank you so much for advocating for AmeriCorps and all of the wonderful things that AmeriCorps stands for, and also, of course, to the CCC. I love working with the Corps members. I love my job, and I would sit here and thank all the staff individually, but there's a lot of them. So I'd just like to thank Larry Notais, the center director in Fortuna. He's been such a great leader and mentor, and I definitely would not be standing here without him. So thank you so much, everybody. I forgot to thank my lovely parents. They drove all the way here to be here.